Welcome to Power Conversations and Connections with Susan. Here at Power Conversations, we talk about life, the beauty and vulnerability on the journey to self love and evolving into our best selves. Thank you for joining the conversation. Today, I want to pose a question to you. How do you come back from adversity? Like, what gives us that inner strength to recognize that we can get up, right? And how do you then start to actually elevate yourself and get up? So let me tell you a story, right? I was married for 11 years. Pretty, successful marriage. I've learned some things since then that I could have done better, right? But went into the military, had a military career, transferred, as a family to Jacksonville. And within 6 months, my husband had died. Like the bottom completely dropped out, right? And for a while, I could not get up off of the floor. I couldn't figure out why was this happening to me? And how was I going to be able to rebound? One, I became a single mother, and I never wanted to be a single mother. Two, I had to make a decision about my military career because my daughter was 6 years old. And if I continued to stay in the military, who was she going to be with? So a whole lot of life changes happened all at one time. And sometimes when that happens, even the strongest of us, we get kicked in the gut and we wonder how we're going to get back to happy, back to fulfilled. And that was one of the times in my life where I really started to not think about being happy. My goal was to be fulfilled. My goal was to be able to become who I wanted to become, come out of the circumstance that I was in, and start to rebuild my life, right? But I was able to ever so slowly. It was a process, right? It was a process of really talking to God. It was a process of dealing with the anger, the separation, the feelings that I had about being alone. And no one gives you a playbook for that. And I didn't know what to do. I was here in Florida. I had family, of course, who came in, to support me. But it's just like any other death. People come in and they're here for a period. And then when they leave, the house is quiet. When they leave, you go into the closet and you realize all the clothes are still in there. You go into the kitchen and you realize that you don't want to do this, right? And a couple of things stuck out for me. One was bringing in the trash, and two was washing my car because I never had to do that. I never had to wash my own car when I was married, and I certainly never took out the trash. And now I found myself having to bring in the trash, wash my car, carry in groceries. Those little things reminded me that I was still in a place of learning how to come back from adversity. You may not have experienced a death. You may have experienced it in your career or trying to climb the ladder, ascend to a different place, in your home or whatever the environment is. And you find yourself in this situation of adversity and you wonder, how am I going to get out? And you begin the process. The first thing is, for me, and the thing that I ask you to do is to recognize what you're dealing with. What are you dealing with? And it's multi-layered, right? It's what you're dealing with. How do you feel about it? How does it affect you? How does it affect everything around you? And how are you going to be able to tap into all of that, to move forward? Some of you make great personal sacrifices, during that time. You have to sacrifice time. You've got to sacrifice how you're going to, be with other people. And you begin to have these conversations, right? Conversations with yourself about getting up. The point I want to make is no one will make any strides if you don't first decide to get up. It's the beauty of coming out of adversity, making a decision in one moment, even though everything else around you may not be as it should be, and certainly is not like it is going to be, but it will remain the same if you don't make a decision that you're going to get up and you're going to fight, right? You have to fight. You got to want to come out. And emotionally, using your voice, speaking to yourself, having that inner conversation and saying what you want and how you want to be and how this thing is not going to defeat you. You have to start to have those conversations inside before you can speak the affirmations that we talk about. Of course, you can speak them, but if you don't believe them, if you don't believe that you're going to come out of your situation, then it's just words floating in air, right? But those inner conversations, those hard things that you have to begin to talk to yourself about, or in my case, to begin to journal, right? And to realize that you're not alone on this road. More than likely, especially in my case, death is something that I'm not the only person that has experienced. I don't know what your particular situation is. You may feel like I am the only person who's experiencing this. You may be experiencing something in your own way, but chances are you're not the first person to have experienced this particular thing, right? So, how do you begin? One, you start to dig inside of you, and you've got to get to a point of peace. You've got to get to a point of recognizing and accepting I'm going to get up. I may not spring up. I may not run when I get up. I may get up in a slow jog, one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. But I'm going to move forward. And remember, happiness, fulfillment never happens if we are not determined to make that a part of our life. If you are in an adverse situation, something that's really challenging, I mean, hard, if you don't keep moving forward, you'll never get past it. You got to believe, and then you've got to attach some action to that belief. You got to attach some movement to the belief because you've had the conversation with yourself. You've decided that enough is enough. Now, what are you going to do? You have to actually do something to come out. Include other people in the process at that point. Are you willing to share the circumstances? Are you willing to, you know, communicate with someone else honestly? And that was tough for me to communicate with someone honestly about how I felt about being a single mother, having to change what I thought was going to be a long-term career, re-alter my intentions, and all of the things that made me not comfortable, that challenged me to do something different in the midst of motherhood and changing environments. You remember, I was here only 6 months. I barely knew my way around. But now I'm having to put myself in a situation where I've got to get to know my environment, because at some point I'm going to have to rely on my environment, or at least incorporate my environment into my life more than I would have if I would have had the cocoon of this insular family and that insular career, right? So you've got to look at the picture and think, I'm getting up, I'm moving forward. Now, who do I need to incorporate into that to make me a stronger person, to get me to my happy or to my fulfillment, right? It's a tough fight when you are in the situation and you perceive it to be a negative situation. It is a negative situation, but perception changes when you decide that perception will change. If you decide to reframe how you're looking at it, if you decide that I'm getting up and here's what I'm going to do differently, here are the results that I'm going to get from doing these different actions, then your perspective will start to shift, and you will begin to see that the journey is evolving and becoming better. The things that you do, the people that you incorporate, all begin to make sense. It becomes a little brighter, right? You begin to speak those affirmations and believe them. When you say, I am wonderful, I am fabulous, I can do all things, you begin to believe that. And then your actions follow it. And one day you'll realize, wait a minute, I'm not in that place I was in. I'm in a better place. Am I in my maximized place? No. But then you begin to realize I'm moving. My situation is changing. And that's when you begin to walk into you're happy. You begin to frame what you want that to be, what that definition of the word means to you. Why did I stop saying that I'm happy and started to say that my happiness really is wrapped around my fulfillment? Because for me, happiness is lofty. It can come, it could go. It doesn't have a firm footing. But fulfilled means, for me, I'm good. Like I can face the challenge. I can be fulfilled in my circumstance. I can embrace where I am. I can smile, another day because I'm fulfilled. I'm doing well over here. And the pieces are coming together over there. And I can put more and more of the puzzle together to build the life that I want. For me, that's fulfillment. Happiness is just part of the ride, right? It also keeps me from chasing the elusive feeling good all the time, being happy. Because that's what people think. I'm happy, you're smiling, everything's good, but everything is not good all the time in life. Sometimes life throws you for a loop. We're talking about coming outside of adversity. So if we're chasing happiness, what happens when we don't see that? What happens when we don't feel like smiling or engaging with others or being the person who is taking charge of everything? What happens when we don't feel that? If we wrap it around this thing that we're chasing, then we miss the fact that along the way, movement, generally good movement, intentional movement, gives us results. But just chasing happy, you could just be moving for moving's sake with nothing to show for it, right? To me, fulfillment means I've looked at all of the pieces of my life, from finances to relationships. and I've looked at how I fit into those spaces, what I have control over and what I don't. And fulfillment means having a grip, a grasp on it. So if I have those pieces hitting, I'm fulfilled. And that is joyful for me, right? When you're in a tough situation, decide at some point, enough is enough. You know, there is a saying, no one's going to save you. Well, it's true. Before you can expect other people to save you, you have to save yourself. And when you're in a situation where you don't seem like you can get out, you have to determine that first and foremost, before I look to anybody else, I'm going to put some action behind, some intent behind saving myself. First, starting with how I talk to myself. What are the expectations and how real I am about what's going on? I had to be real with the fact that I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared for a death. I wasn't prepared to be a single mother. That wasn't my plan, right? And so, in that, having to readjust, you begin to readjust and you move forward and you fall and you move forward and you fall and you move forward and you fall. You have those conversations about moving forward and failing, moving forward and coming back. But you begin to talk through those things with yourself and really get the courage to then begin to step out and bring other people into the situation who can help you. Then you begin to see the progress that you're making, and then you begin to reach that fulfillment. For you, if you want to call it happy, that's you. But I began to be fulfilled. I began to feel love for myself. I began to be less angry with what had happened to me, because it wasn't just about me. It was life. And I had a choice. Either I was going to stay in that situation, stay down, or I was going to dig deep and come out. And that's what I'm challenging you to do. What are you facing that you have to dig deep and determine to come out? What is trying to stop you from evolving into your best self? That you got to say, hell no, I'm going to do this. Whether it's pursuing your degree or pursuing a higher degree or going after a specific career or entering into entrepreneurship, what is that thing, that adverse thing that is keeping you? What is the thing that just poof happened that knocked you down? You have to decide how long you stay in there. And then when you get up, you have to decide, I'm going to stay up. Even when I dip and I fall a little bit, I'm going to stay up, right? So, my loves, let's focus on changing our perspective and pulling ourselves out of a situation. Never letting anything just destroy us. Using our inner voice to start the process to healing and to wholeness. Thank you for joining the conversation. I'll see you next time. Y'all be good.